Welcome to Even Tacos Fall Apart, a podcast and community providing a safe space to explore and grow in mental health and well-being. Parenthood is hard, healing is hard, and doing both at the same time is a whole other level of exhaustion, self-reflection, and growth that most people aren't prepared for. No matter how much you read, plan, or think you have it figured out, the reality of raising a child while still figuring yourself out hits different when you're in it. A lot of people talk about parenting as this beautiful, rewarding experience, and it is. But what often gets left out of the conversation is how much it forces you to confront your own past. You start noticing things about yourself that you hadn't thought about in years. The way you react to your child's emotions, the struggles you have with patience, boundaries, or connections. The wounds you thought were long healed that suddenly feel wide open again. Some parents find themselves repeating cycles they swore they'd break. Others feel overwhelmed by the weight of not wanting to repeat them. And for many, becoming a parent is the first time they really understand how much healing they still have to do. That's not failure, it's awareness. And awareness is the first step to changing things. Today, I'm talking with Jessica Medina, a licensed marriage and family therapist who is also a brand new mom. She's been on the show before, you may recognize the name, but this is the first time we're talking about parenthood from this perspective, raw, unfiltered, and real. Jessica shares what it's been like navigating new motherhood while also confronting her own past, breaking generational cycles, and figuring out how to balance healing with the daily chaos of raising a baby. We talk about the unexpected emotions that come up when you become a parent, the challenges of setting boundaries with family, and the guilt and grief that can sneak up on you when you least expect it. We also get into the practical side, how to take care of yourself when there's no time, how to stop feeling like you have to get everything right all the time, and why it's okay if some days your biggest win is just making it through. If you've ever felt like parenting is exposing parts of yourself you weren't ready to face, or if you're struggling to find the balance between taking care of your child and taking care of yourself, this episode has something for you. It's honest, it's messy, and it's real, just like parenting. Let's get into it. Here's my conversation with Jessica Medina. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Mental Health Monday here on Even Tacos Fall Apart. Right off the bat, I will apologize for any sniffling, snuffling noises that might come out of me today, because boy, are my allergies acting up. And my voice is going, and there's just nothing to do for it but soldier on. So that's okay, because I am joined by the wonderful Jessica Medina, and y'all may by now probably recognize her because she has joined us tonight. It's her 7th time joining us. And I'm so excited that you have been willing to come back, that you've been excited to come back, that you keep, I know, you're just like, hey, yeah, let's talk again. Absolutely. So I am thrilled to have you back. For those of you who maybe haven't listened to the previous 6, I'll introduce Jessica. I know, right? And you can go do that right after this. You can always go see all of those right after this. Jessica Medina is a licensed family and marriage and family therapist and a new mom, which we're going to talk about tonight. She loves creating innovative and fun pop culture-based therapy interventions such as Roblox, Animal Crossing, and Inside Out. Jessica uses techniques like mindfulness, play, geek culture, and pop culture to explore the chaos that can be everyday life, which those of you who are new parents know that is definitely true. She has extensive experience working with children, teens, adults, school-based counseling, trauma, anxiety, divorce, depression, OCD, grief, LGBTQIA+, alternative lifestyles, suicidal ideation, self-harm, and healing from difficult family dynamics. I've got lots of social links for her, so if you are looking for her anywhere, make sure that you pop over to one of these. I've got a website, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all of those things. If you want to connect with her, make sure you go pop over, give her a follow, like some of her posts, all of that stuff. Our topic tonight is Parenthood Meets Healing,
We're going to talk about growing up while raising kids, because this is something, we've talked about parenting and mental health and just generally those kinds of topics, and parenting after loss and all kinds of things like that. But growing up while raising kids is something that a lot of people find themselves facing, whether they're expecting to or not. Parenting can come with some serious, serious challenges. And it's one of those things that you don't know until you're in it, kind of what it's going to be. So, Jessica, with that, I'll pause and just say thank you so much for joining us again, for coming on here, for being your wonderful, authentic, open self. And yeah, thank you.
Thank you. It's so nice to be back, and it's so nice to people with someone other than a 5-month-old.
Yeah, for real. So 5 months old, that's like such a young age. How are you doing?
Yes,
Yeah, yeah, that's
I'm
right.
good. I'm good. It, it's a beautiful, chaotic dumpster fire on the best days, but damn, are the
Yes.
flames pretty.
Yeah, absolutely. I like that. We were talking before we started about, kind of mom brain and everything. And it definitely is one of those things you have to do what you have to do. And there's so much on new parents, especially, that it's like, did we make it through the day? Great. Success. Excellent.
That's
So I
one of my
know.
finished tasks. Like, honestly, made it through the day. Check. And it's like
Yeah.
nice to click that at the end of the day. Like, woo, I made it.
Yep. Absolutely. All right, so I mentioned that you've been here 6 times before. I had to look it up because I didn't know. Our first conversation together was in June of 2021, which was
Oh my God.
more than 4 years ago. Well, more than 3 years ago. Like, that's wild to me
Wow.
that it's been so long ago. So I wasn't sure, and I was
Oh,
like, I wonder how long ago it was that we first spoke.
yeah.
And it was June of
Wow,
2021.
I was a baby clinician because I barely got licensed in November of that year. Oh my goodness.
Yes. Yeah, our first
Wow, time
conversation,
flies.
you weren't licensed. And then the next one, I was like, anything to update in your bio? And you were like, yeah, I got my license. And then I think the third time, I was like,
I
anything to
think
update? And you were like, got a new last name.
I was gonna say, I'm pretty sure that we had a interview right before I got engaged too. So you
Yes.
basically followed from engagement to marriage to pregnant to my
Yep.
kiddo.
Yep. It is. That's
Woo!
that's what it's been.
Fun.
So after that many times, I'm not sure that I can really come up with any more. Like, we always do the what made you get into mental health, and what do you enjoy about your job? What are the biggest challenges? All of those kinds of things. So I'll
We
just
covered the
ask.
shit out of that.
I know we've gone into it. I feel like we all know you really well. So I'll just go with what makes you happy.
Ugh. See, that answer can change at any given moment, and I think that's the
Yeah.
beauty of it. Food-wise, I would say a toss-up of salt and straw and sidecar donuts. I have a really intense sweet tooth, and I thought it would go away after I gave birth. No, it got worse. So I love a good like chocolate chip cookie, ice
Hmm.
cream. Um, but lately, what's been making me happy is I know it's gonna sound cliche. It's on par with the topic, but I love seeing all these neat little things with my son, my kiddo. He is 5 months old, and for the longest time, he would wake up and just like banshee screech at the world. I mean, mood, same, but and just kind of freak out, and we'd comfort him, of course. But lately, I want to say within the past like day or two, it hasn't been going on long, but he'll lift his little head up and he'll look around and be like, "Oh, you're here," and give me the biggest smile. And I'm like tearing up. But it's that moment of serotonin of like, oh my goodness, like I'm his everything. And like that cute
Hmm.
little face. It's cute. Just seeing all the new things that I didn't even know was the first thing. Super cute. Super fun.
Yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, there's lots of challenges with parenting, right? But a lot of your happiness is also driven by parenting when you're a new parent,
It
especially.
really is.
I mean, we talk about it all the time in the Discord. We have like, it'll tag you for what's something you're grateful for this week a couple times a week. And probably 50% of the time, it's something to do with one of my kids. They're not new kids. They're 11 and 17. They're definitely not babies anymore. But so much of like, what do you find joy in? It's like, oh, this really cool thing happened with the 11-year-old today. Oh, this really, my 17-year-old helped cook dinner today. That brought me a lot of joy. Like just all of the little things build up. And it really does start like from the moment they're born. You notice all these teeny tiny little things. And it's like, that's new. That's exciting. That's really cool. I love it.
It's so cool. It's so cool.
Yeah.
We'll get deep into
Yes.
what's special about it.
Yeah. So what has surprised you the most about becoming a parent?
A lot of things. The one thing that I wasn't prepared for, everything surrounding his birth was chaotic. And nothing happened the way I thought it would. So what surprised me was how easy it was to set my ego aside. Like, y'all know me. I'm chaotic as fuck. Like, I'm a Sagittarius with a Scorpio moon. My ego is through the roof. I will own up to that. But that went completely out the door when it came to kiddo. And I had a really high risk pregnancy, and I have a pacemaker, Ehlers-Danlos, all of that. And towards the end, I ended up actually taking 3 weeks off earlier than what I was expecting to, because I started having some pretty intense pain after sitting long periods, and that's kind of my job.
Yeah.
And nothing I did was making it easier, like getting up and stretching between sessions, like not having any in a row. That wasn't helping. So I took off earlier, was in labor for a week. All sorts of crazy things ended up in labor and delivery ER like 2 or 3 times before I actually delivered, and ultimately ended up having to have a C-section, and kiddo spent time in the NICU, and it was a lot. And I was one of those moms who was like, no epidural, I want it all natural. All of that went out the window.
Yeah.
Very quickly. And what surprised me was how okay I was with that. I'm type A. I'm a control freak like crazy, and I wanted everything exactly how I wanted it, and nothing went how I wanted it. And I'm perfectly fine with that.
Yeah. Yeah, you can make all the birth plans you want, but it's going to happen how it's going to happen for real.
And I had specific like birth plans
Same.
because of my health and all the things I have going on. But even then, nothing went according.
Yep. Same here. I had a birth plan with my first one. I had a birth plan with my second one. 2 entirely different experiences with birth. Both times though, I was like, they were like, you want an epidural? I was like, yep, hook it up, let's go. There was I was under no pretense of like, I don't want medication. I was like, yes, give it to me, please, let's go. But totally different, and you can plan as much as you want. The moment those babies decide to come though, like they're in charge.
Oh yeah, and that definitely was the case with my kiddo. Like, oh my goodness. Whew.
Were there any unexpected emotions or challenges that kind of brought up like your pregnancy, or even like after you gave birth, maybe that brought up for you that you were surprised by?
Oh yeah. I like to say I'm the queen of compartmentalizing, but in reality, that's always how I've dealt with my trauma and any intense emotions. I mean, shit, I don't remember a decent portion of my pregnancy. At least the day to day. I remember the big things, but it went by really quick because of the dissociation. I mean, I was in constant pain all the time. I had really bad GERD where I was like throwing up every morning. Anytime I coughed, I would immediately throw up. I didn't really have like morning sickness, but I went through it. And it was rough. I don't remember where I was going with that pregnancy brain, but the unexpected emotion was definitely right after he was born.
Mm.
So I had to have an emergency C-section, so I had to be induced and fully balloon and everything. My water had not broken up until that point, and with the Foley, it's supposed to take about 6 to 12 hours to dilate 5 centimeters. And I had ended up in the labor and delivery ER because my blood pressure was way too high,
Mm.
and it started causing some distress for the kiddo. And ironically, the same ER doctor was the one who delivered my son. And I came back, he's like, "Why? You're here again?" Like, I missed you so much. And turns out it was like his like 2000th C-section or something. It was a big number,
Oh, wow.
but that was really neat that happened that weekend. And turns out, despite all that, after laboring for a week, the high blood pressure, all of that being induced with the Foley balloon, I dilated 5 centimeters in about an hour and a half. And throughout all that time, I was having mommy issues that caused a lot of fighting with, between my siblings, my parents. There's a lot of things going on
Mm.
behind the scenes. So I was dealing with that too. And laboring in the hospital without having, my mom in town, my sister couldn't make it. Mentally, it was a lot. And my contractions were rough,
Mm.
rough. And I have a really high pain tolerance. And that floored me. So I started having a massive panic attack in the middle of that. And my water broke. Turns out kiddo was so distressed, he ended up pooping inside and inhaling his meconium. And that's what I was seeing after my water broke. So they
Mm.
cleaned me up. And thankfully, I had already had the epidural at that point because the contractions were so intense. I was like, look, if it's making me mentally break down, and oh, that's where I circled back. Yay!
We got
Sometimes it
there.
works out like, but the contractions were so intense and whatnot that I was like, okay, I need an epidural. Let's go for it. And I did it. And at that point I was like, oh, I'm gonna push, at least I could labor in the bathtub maybe, or labor on the bed. And they're like, it was really quick. I want to say within like half an hour.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, okay, so you still have about 6 more hours to go. Kiddo's not handling this well.
Yeah.
My kid bitched out before I did. But ironically, I was so nervous about pooping on him. He's like, "Yeah, bet, got you, mom." And he was born way early. He was supposed to be born on June 27th. He was born June 14th. And when I went into labor, it got to a point where I called my sister-in-law. I'm like, "You need to come here. You need to get here now." So I wasn't expecting that panic attack. I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting just how quickly mentally I was like, okay, let's do the epidural. And then like half an hour, they're like, you need a C-section right now. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I had massive fears, like crippling OCD fears of a C-section. And it
Mm-hmm.
happened. But long-winded, I know. Y'all know me by now at this point, telling 5 million stories to get to the main story. But the most unexpected emotion was healing from my C-section in my room while my kiddo was in the NICU.
Mm-hmm.
Because he had to be on oxygen. I tear up every time I explore this. But see, that's the unexpected thing. Every time I'm like, no, I've processed it. I'm fine. Emotions are like, yeah, bitch, bet. And I didn't realize how hard it would be to look back at NICU photos sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
There definitely is grief with that. And his life was never in danger, so to speak. He did need oxygen. He needed antibiotics. They're basically treating it like he had pneumonia. But to see all these little wires on him,
Yeah.
and if the wires were moved in any way, the monitors would go off really loud. And what I also didn't expect was I had forgotten that my psychiatrist warned me, since I was on Zoloft, which is totally safe while you're pregnant. I went off of a medication that wasn't safe, switched to Zoloft, but we completely forgot. I was already warned, but we forgot once he was born, he was going to have withdrawals.
Ah.
Guess who was the loudest baby, scream crying like a banshee in all of the NICU, because he was cranky as hell. I mean, yeah, you're withdrawing from psych meds. And so thankfully they had this little back area that was meant for like infectious diseases, and it was completely cleaned out and whatnot. But they put him in his own little room. They put like kind of like baby weighted blankets on him that were safe, had him in a little rocker, and he had prescription cuddles. I'm like, he's my kid.
Aw. That's great.
That's so high. But I wasn't prepared for that grief. Like, oh my goodness, it was the most intense grief I have ever had going home without him.
Yeah.
And we lived about an hour or so away from the hospital. So I would come back, I would still have to pump so that they can feed him, but we would go stay for 6 hours, so for 2 feedings, and then come home, pump some more, get rest, and then go back. But it was rough, and that I definitely wasn't expecting that. I mean, pregnancy and childbirth was a breeze compared to visiting him in the NICU.
Yeah.
That was hard.
So my youngest was also in the NICU, and he was not early. He was late. He was 10 days late past his due date. Wow. So he was this giant baby compared to the NICU babies, right? But going in and seeing him with like an IV in his scalp and you're right, all the monitors and everything on him and everything sticking to, like, he's got something in his hand, he's got something on his chest, he's got the IV in his head, and it's just like, that's heartbreaking. Even if you know everything's going to be fine, you're like, okay, it's going to be fine. He needs to be here. This is for his own good. This is for his health. It's good. Everything's fine. And we were even allowed to room in at the hospital. So even after I was discharged, they had like a hoteling space that I could just room in there and be able to, they would bring him from the NICU to me in this room in the hospital. So it wasn't a patient room. It's just like
I had to go in there.
Yeah. So I didn't have to go home or anything. I just stayed at the hospital until he was able to be released from the NICU. But yeah, it brings up all kinds of like, this is my baby and he's got a bunch of shit coming out of him and I'm not in control of it. That's worse.
Yes.
That's worse than not 100%. Being in control of anything. Everything can go not according to your birth plan. Fine, whatever. It's done. It's over. But then seeing that baby in front of you and you're like, he's all connected and it's freaking me out. It's very much, yeah, it's not in your control. And that's terrifying.
Yeah, and there'd be some times where they're like, yeah, you can come visit. Like, we were allowed to visit anytime we wanted.
Yeah.
But of course, they had to titrate his oxygen. Yep. There was like certain thresholds he had to meet, and that turned into an obsession as well. So for those newly tuning in, I have diagnosed OCD, really, really severe. I am not on my meds for that anymore because I can't do the breastfeeding. You cannot take beta blockers while breastfeeding. And that, oh my God, the rumination was so hard. And we would come back to check in on him. And sometimes they were doing like his vitals, the diaper, and we couldn't. They're like, you gotta come back later. Oh, that was so hard. That was so hard. And the only thing that helped me was going on walks around the hospital. And all my nurses are like, how the hell are you walking after a C-section? I'm like, you don't know me. But it also, that was my way of kind of coping, because I would get so restless and wanting to visit him every chance we got. Like, that was my compulsion. Granted, I missed the NICU smell. The NICU smelled heavenly every time we walked in there, and that was something I was looking forward to. And then volunteers would bring chocolate chip cookies, so that was nice. There's small moments of heaven in it.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't think I mentioned this earlier, but we do have a question queue open. So if you have any questions while we're here live, feel free to pop those into the chat. We'll make sure to address them while we're here live. And we'll get to them. So just feel free to ask any questions that you might have as we're going through our conversation tonight. So now you're a new mom. You're also a therapist still. How has becoming a parent influenced, I guess, how you understand inner child healing now that maybe you've had to do a little bit of that unplanned yourself? Has that influenced you in any way?
It really has. I mean, I reside with family in my family of origin home, in my childhood home. And the inner child healing it actually came, I want to say last month it hit the hardest because I was adopted by my grandparents when I was 4 months old. And it was rough during that month because I would look at him in such awe and wonder and all these amazing little things that he was showing. And I was like, is he attached to me? Yeah, he's attached to me. Yes, he definitely is attached to me. But also in the same aspect, there was that grief of why couldn't my biological mom attach to me? And it was in that moment that I was like, there was nothing wrong with me.
Yeah.
I was a cute ass little kid, and being able to see myself in my kid and see my personality. He definitely got my husband's look, but damn, did he get my personality. I'm so sorry, world. But being able to see that and kind of step into different shoes for a second and realize, I was a baby. I was a tiny little thing. I didn't do anything wrong.
Yeah.
And that's something that's hard to accept as an adoptee sometimes.
Yeah. I guess I wouldn't have even, I'm not adopted. I don't, so it's hard to sometimes put myself into those shoes of, oh, being a new mom would definitely impact you if you were adopted and you're like looking at this from that lens. Of course it would. Once you think about it, it's like, yeah, there it is, but you don't always think about it. And it sounds like maybe you didn't really think about it until then either.
No, because my grandparents became my foster parents when I was 4 months old. They're really all I ever knew as my mom and dad. And, the other part of the puzzle is knowing as a therapist all of the developmental milestones, but also realizing you're like, yeah, no shit, I don't have attachment to my biological parents. They weren't in my life. They were on drugs. So all these things I knew at face value, right? And I was like, no, I've processed it. I have no emotions about it. Like, it is what it is. That's kind of how I am with my mental health. With my autism, it makes it a lot easier to compartmentalize and detach without dissociating. And sometimes I go deep down that dissociation train. But I thought I had explored the crap out of everything. I've had my whole life, grad school, all of that to explore the ins and outs of everything. But actually seeing my kid at 4 months old and his capacity and his zest for life and curiosity, that hit me like a freight train.
Yeah. Did you do anything like in the face of that you were like, okay, I know as a therapist that kind of this is what I need to do? Uh-oh. I can see and hear you still, I think. Can you hear me? Let's see. Uh-oh. Oh. It's just me. Can you hear me?
I think I froze.
Oh, okay. I could see and hear you, but that's okay.
Oh,
Can you see and hear now?
So fun.
Got eyes and ears?
I can. Yes.
Excellent.
Yes.
I was like panicking, like, oh no, did I drop? But it wasn't. I don't think it was.
I was like, what's going on?
That's okay. It's chaos. It's all right. So,
is that the vibe this year?
oh my gosh, it's the vibe. It definitely is. I'm looking forward to a time in our lives where it's not chaos. Eventually. Maybe it won't be. We'll see. Might take a while, seems like. Now, we were talking about, kind of your reaction to some things in your childhood. And I know that parenting a lot of the time does mirror aspects of your own childhood, even whenever you don't have something like adoption that you're kind of having brought up. It's just like, oh, well, you were raised one way. And so, well, of course, you're going to parent one way. And sometimes, we kind of try to change some things around because of how we were raised. So how do you navigate breaking those cycles of emotional immaturity or dysfunction in your family lineage as a new parent?
Oh God, is it messy? It's definitely messy. For me, I'm a millennial. My husband's millennial. My in-laws are Gen X, and my parents are boomers. And I grew up Californian, but with East Coast values. Both of my parents are from the East Coast. So it's different decades of culture, and my whole life that's been that you don't know me, you don't understand me, you don't know what it's like. That definitely was the communication for the longest time in the convo. The breaking cycles part, that was rough. There was a lot of inner child healing that I did while I was pregnant, and there was a lot of headbutting of, you should do this, you should do that. I'm like, I'm seeing specialists, fuck off, leave me alone. And I don't do well with being told what to do in an area that I know a lot of, and that is child development and advocacy for my body, being a disabled woman with rare disabilities. It almost feels invalidating, and like my competence is being questioned. So that was rough. And standing firm in what I know and research has been the biggest thing. But in terms of emotional immaturity, honestly, what helped most, and I'm not sponsored or anything, but this book is not showing client names on the side. I have it tabbed for my clients. But this book is absolutely fucking amazing. It's Adult Children of Emotionally Immature Parents: How to Heal from Distant, Rejecting, or Self-Involved Parents. I have some clients who have done the workbook. They reported great things about it. I personally haven't done the workbook. I am not a workbook person. Like, there's even activities in here where it's like, do this activity. No, but that's my spicy brain, autistic, mind. But I have like so many pages highlighted and notes and all of that in here. It was mind-blowing just how ununique my experience was, and this book helped me put so much into perspective. Like, one of the things that stood out to me is, for parents who are emotionally immature, they're uncomfortable with their own emotional needs and therefore have no idea how to offer support at an emotional level. So there's a lot of shifting of expectations for me. Okay, I have this expectation that now they're grandparents, everything's going to be beautiful and sunshine and rainbows. And no, a lot of it is me educating and updating on modern shit of like, no, you're not supposed to let a baby cry it out. That's terrible. It increases their cortisol levels and it has a detrimental effect on their amygdala and their body as a whole, as they're forming their prefrontal cortex, all of that, and attachment. And I'm like, I'm the fucking therapist. So a lot of it was that, but also staying out of my therapist's role when educating others, because it can come across as being a potential asshole, even if I'm informed. But how do I navigate breaking those cycles? Staying informed, being confident in my knowledge, but also very firm in my boundaries. With the emotional immaturity, a lot of it was being that blank rock, that gray rock, of just stating it, without emotions or reflecting it, of, okay, I hear you, but that's not what we're doing. Or I am going to leave this room because you're not able to continue a productive conversation with me at an appropriate volume where it's healthy for both of us. And it's being really strong in that, because dysfunction is going to be there. Emotional immaturity is not going to go away, but it's being conscious about what I'm letting my child be around and be exposed to.
It can be really hard for different generations to understand some things that they did in the past were actually harmful, like legitimately have been studied and have been found to be harmful. A lot of people take it as a personal attack, which I understand. I get you did something one way, you raised someone one way, you were raised one way. Of course, if someone says, "Hey, mom, hey, dad, we don't spank," it's not what we do. You know, it's not what we do. Of course, that's going to be a little bit confronting, right? Because you're telling them what you did was wrong. You might not be putting it into those words, but as human beings, it's very easy to receive something that way. And so, yeah, that can be really hard to be able to express that in a way that is like, I'm doing this for the safety of my child. Also, I love you and I want you to be a part of their life still. That's really difficult. That's a hard balance.
That's exactly how I've had to say it sometimes too, that point blank bluntness of, I cannot have you around my child. You are not a safe person.
Yeah.
And that's hard. There's a lot of guilt that comes with that. There's a lot of transgenerational trauma that comes along with that. And it's constantly like, how am I going to fuck up my kid? But it really is that conscious effort of, okay, what am I okay with and not okay with? Where do I draw the line? And what happens if that line is crossed?
Yeah, absolutely. What are some of the biggest challenges you faced with balancing your needs as a new parent and as a healing parent also, because at 5 months, I'm sure your body is still recovering, with the demands of raising an infant?
Oh God, it's hard. Yeah, that's another thing I wasn't expecting. I had a C-section, and 5 months later, I'll feel like I'm being stabbed in the area that hurt the most when I was healing too, and it's like, that's fun, the pain out of nowhere. But the hardest part, I mean, I've been back to work since Labor Day, full time. I have a completely full caseload. I wasn't expecting that. I mean, it's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
But I was not the biggest challenge, time. Oh my God, there's never enough time in the day. And it's learning to be okay with letting things go to shit. And being type A with OCD, that's super fucking hard for me. But with like maternity benefits in California, it's a dumpster fire. I haven't been paid for several months of benefits owed. It's stepping back and be like, what the fuck can I do? So it's looking at the whole situation and be like, okay, what can I do? I need to pump, I need to eat, need to change the kid out. I have this amount of time, but I also need to have self-care in that, right? So I mean, a lot of parenting and that integration of therapist parent is that intention, that intentionality. So it's during his wake window. I mean, he's 5 months old. He loves playing, but I can't play all day long. He's a little chonkers, and I love him, but he's heavy. And I have chronic pain. So I was like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's go on walks during your wake window. So I'm able to get out and walk around. Or I started doing like very simple makeup, but it would take like 5 minutes, and it like a face mask type thing that's good for your skin. I don't know. So it's like self-care for me. And I've also been crocheting a lot because stabbing something multiple times is really cathartic sometimes. But also, I mean, I dyed my hair. So it's like little things. It's Amazon too. But it's finding that time for myself. So if I'm, say, nursing my kiddo, I'll play a fun game on my phone.
Hmm.
Or like if I'm changing him, feeding him in my office and we're chilling, I'll put on a Disney playlist and we'll have a dance party. So it's finding those small moments for myself, because if not, I'm going to go fucking insane.
Yeah.
So sometimes it is getting like splurging on the Starbucks K-cups and having a cinnamon dulce latte. But at home, it's those small things that really make a
Yeah.
difference.
I mean, you have to find the time for it, which is really impossible because that is the biggest challenge. Like your self-care is not going to look the same as it did before, unfortunately. But you have to kind of fit it into that schedule of being that new parent and having this small creature who takes up almost all of your time and energy, and just figuring out a way to, okay, I've got to take care of me because my time and energy are important too. Um, but yeah, it's really tough. Do you have any advice for parents who might feel overwhelmed by that push and pull between I'm a parent, I'm a caregiver, but I also have to take care of myself and my mental health?
Yeah. So the advice I would give is it's okay if things are half-assed. Half-assed is better than no ass.
Hmm.
And what I mean by that is it's okay to run the dishwasher 5 times if you can't sit and scrub. It's okay to put Dawn dish soap, power spray on your dishes and let it sit for 5 days until you remember to do the dishes. May or may not have been me quite a few times. It's okay to let laundry go undone. I mean, of course you want to make sure that it's still healthy for your health. You don't want to get to a point where it's hazardous for you.
Hmm.
But there's been some mornings where I'm like, fuck it, I'm just gonna have a bowl of cereal. Or, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not like huge on football or sports, but the Kelsey brothers came up with this cereal that's like Reese's Puffs, Cinnamon Toast Crunch, and Lucky Charms all in one. So good. So good.
I'm gonna have to look that up
Chaos.
because that sounds delicious.
Oh, it's so good. Oh, it's so good. But it's those small little things of, okay, fuck it. Maybe my hair is not super amazing. So I've learned how to do a messy mom bun. Super fun. With makeup, I don't do a full face anymore. I used to do this full ass bead, all these crazy colors. No. I've learned to lean into being okay with the mess.
Hmm.
One thing's gonna be messy. It's gonna be my kid, myself, or my house, right? So it's okay if it's the house. It's okay if it's going to the grocery store in pajamas with hair you haven't washed or brushed in 6 days. It's okay. It's okay to let some things go for your own sanity. Just make sure you carve out time for yourself. It's hard.
Yeah.
It's hard.
And
Chocolate makes
and
things better.
yeah, for real. And it really, I think it can be really easy to feel judged if you do like go out in public and you're like, I'm a mess, my kid's a mess, but I gotta go to the grocery store, and no one is caring. All they're seeing is a mom doing their best, a dad doing their best with a child. That is it. That's all they see. And it's hard to kind of give yourself that grace to feel that, but it's true. And if people come over to your house and it's a mess, that's not what they see. They see a parent
Right.
and a new baby. Like that's what they see. And if they do see a mess and they
This
don't offer
might
to help
be
you, then what are they doing at your house
their
anyway?
asshole. Right. But this may seem extreme, but the one saying that always helps me put that into perspective is even the queen shits,
Hmm.
right? Even the Pope has had diarrhea. And you know, everyone's gonna have their messy moments. No
Yeah,
one's without mess.
100%. Absolutely. My whole house is a mess right now because I don't feel great. And yesterday I was faced with a choice between, yeah, right. I mean, I was faced with a choice between, do I stay up like I normally would and take care of the things around the house that haven't gotten done, or do I just go to bed because I feel like shit? And I was like, no, I'm going to go take a really long shower and let that soothe my face, which is entirely stopped up. and then I'm going to go to bed. And that's what I did. And I regret it not at all today. Like my house is still a mess
Exactly.
because I worked all day, and that's okay. Like it'll, first of all, my dad's coming tomorrow because he's going to come stay with the kids while I'm going out of town. And when he comes, like he does clean up some stuff. So I'm like, first, I don't have to stress about it because I know he's going to do some things. But also, even if he wasn't, like there will come a day, hopefully very soon, where my allergies aren't bothering me so much and I'll have the energy and I'll take care of it then. And
Exactly.
it's so hard to let go of that control though sometimes. I mean, we talked about control earlier and now we're coming right back to it, but it's hard to let go of that control and say this is okay.
Yeah.
But it totally is.
Oh yeah. And
So
it's
how
same kind of with go for it. Go
Oh
for it.
no, I was just going to say, how do you set the boundaries to carve out that time for self-care?
Yeah. So that's actually kind of what I was going to get into. For me, with my OCD, dishes is hard. I have really bad contamination OCD, and I get overwhelmed by looking at the whole task. So like the whole bedroom or the whole sink, the whole basket of laundry. And I like to trick my brain. It works every time. You'd think that my brain would see past it at this point, but no. But I like tricking my brain into, you know what? We're just gonna wash 5 dishes. We're just gonna fold laundry until the song's over. Typically, that's enough for me to get over my executive dysfunction and tackle the entire thing, because that's just me. But I've also used like a D20 and a chore chart where I'll roll, and you know what? If it lands on a 5-minute chore, it lands on a 5-minute chore. But that's kind of helped me carve out that time. But also, I straight up schedule self-care on my schedule, on my work calendar, on my whiteboard. Like I will write it down and schedule it. Otherwise, I won't do it.
Yeah. I love the idea of a D20 and a chore chart. I think that's so neat.
I have like a giant
Yes,
D20 that I use.
that's awesome. I have a glass D20 that on the Nat 1, it says, what does it say? Oh, fuck or something. And on the Nat 20,
I love that.
I think it says like, fuck yeah. Or so it's just like those two sides. And then the rest are just like normal numbers, but it's also like crystally, rainbowy looking. So I like it a lot, but yeah, I mean, so that's how my whole pantry got organized just recently, because after the election, I was feeling a lot of things and I was very tired of not feeling in control of anything and feeling like things were spinning out of control a little bit. And I was like, I need something that I can control. You know what? I bought a little organizer for cans. I'm just going to go put it together. And I put it together, and then I was like, okay, I put it together. You know what? It needs to go into the pantry. I'm already here. I'm just going to do it. And so I pulled out everything off the shelf, and now top to bottom, it's done. But yeah, like tricking yourself and saying, I'm going to fold 1 basket of laundry. I'm not going to tackle all 5 that are sitting here. I'm going to fold 1, and I'm going to put on a show. And then you folded 1 and you're halfway through the show and you're like, well, I'm only halfway through the show.
Yeah, fuck it.
Yeah, might as well just do another one, right? Like, but even if you don't, even if you only get 1 basket folded like you told yourself you were gonna, that's still a win. That's still more than you did before. But and I don't want to, I don't say that to say like all self-care is cleaning, because it's definitely not. But those are the things I have to trick my brain into doing. Those are the things that I don't have to trick my brain into reading or gaming. Like that's not it. I have to trick myself into the healthy side of self-care.
And sometimes that's the hardest part of self-care, honestly. But I know at least for me, when I'm feeling the most chaos, controlled chaos is my favorite way to manage. And that could be weeding with my bare hands and yanking up weeds, or, aggressively baking. It's kind of fun to let that out. That's also why I play video games too. It's nice to fully immerse myself into a world where nothing matters.
Absolutely. Now, we talked a little bit earlier about emotional immaturity and kind of those difficult family dynamics. And I know you've worked with clients who have struggled with that in their past as well, before you were a parent. So what lessons from your professional life have influenced how you approach parenting? Kind of the opposite question from what we had earlier, right? What lessons from your past have you been able to apply to your parenting through other people's experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I've been a child therapist for the longest time, and I forgot how the saying goes, but it's not the child's not the problem. They're having a problem. Like they're having a hard time. Like they're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time.
Yeah.
And you know, that really helped me when kiddos screaming like a banshee at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you know, I want to say I didn't have a hard time with postpartum, but I had postpartum anxiety. And it's hard when your kid's screaming bloody murder and you have no idea why or what to do. And in that moment, I had to remind myself, like, he's a baby. This is the only way he knows how to communicate. And that was super, super helpful immediately. And even now, he's teething. So I'm like, oh, kiddo,
Yeah.
like, you're a grumpy little thing. You need a nap. So it's more seeing our kiddos being upset as a form of communication. Like, what are they communicating right now? How can we step beyond the problem and listen to the need that's being communicated?
Yeah. Which is really difficult with an infant.
Oh God, so difficult. So difficult.
Because that is the only, crying is the only way. Like at least with my 11-year-old, if he's upset about something, I can reason with him. Be like, okay, you said you're not hungry. That's fine. But this attitude is telling me that something is wrong and we've got to figure out what it is. And so, and then you can get him to step back and say, all right, let's think about it. Am I tired? Am I thirsty? Am I hungry? Did something happen that made me upset at school? Like, what have I not communicated to mom that she needs to understand why I'm having a hard time right now? With an infant, you don't get any of that. It's just like, no, they're going to cry until you figure it out.
You do, though. And that's the beauty of parenting that I think a lot of people don't understand. It's really setting aside that time and space for yourself to listen to your child and what they're trying to communicate. Like with my son, his constipated I'm pooping cry is completely different from his I'm tired cry, or his I'm hungry cry is completely different from his I'm bored cry. But that same problem solving goes into place. Same if we're feeling overstimulated. And, you know, I'm autistic. The world overstimulates me, but I'm also the most chaotic person ever. I do this to myself sometimes. But it's taking a step back and be like, okay, did I take my meds today? Have I had water? Did I eat? And being a mom who's also breastfeeding, it's double that too. Plus, I'm working full time. So it's like, okay, I have 3 back-to-back sessions. I need to pump. Kiddo just ate. What does my water intake look like? Did I eat a snack? Having those snacks ready to go so I don't have to think about it. Like that has been, and same with parenting, having those things ready to go, having my kiddos' toys, having the bottle, having the solution and being prepared for it has been the biggest help. Of like, okay, this isn't working. Okay, let's try this. It could be this. And it's kind of approaching it like an experiment.
Yeah. Just trying to figure out what works.
Exactly.
What advice would you give to parents about managing their own emotional reactions while trying to create that safe, supportive environment for their children?
Pretty much exactly what I just said. A deep breath goes a long way. A deep breath really goes a long way. And like I said, they're not giving us a hard time. They're having a hard time. And
I really love that, by the way, that phrase. That's amazing. They're not giving you a hard time. They're having a hard time. That really is an incredible reframe.
Exactly. And creating that supportive environment, being able to be humble is huge. And that's the hardest part of being a parent. We're going to fuck up.
Yeah.
It's inevitable. We are going to hurt our child eventually, whether it be like my clumsy ass, I'm probably going to accidentally like bump into them or something, and I'm not going to do everything right. Not intentional.
Mm-hmm.
It's what we do in that moment when we find out that we have hurt our children. That's what's important. Instead of being like, well, you did this, it's I fucked up.
Yeah.
And beyond that, let's repair it. So it's creating that supportive environment. It's showing that you're infallible. Like, it's showing that you also make mistakes, and that's okay. But it's how you heal from that mistakes. It's creating that safe environment where they can show emotion. I mean, a lot of times I see parents having the hardest time after school, for example, but stepping into the child's perspective, and I think that's the key to provide that supportive environment. Stepping into that child's perspective. Okay, they just had a long ass day of school, boring as hell. It's hard. They might be masking the whole time, but they come home, their emotions are authentic because they're safe with you.
Mm-hmm.
And stepping back and reframing that of, oh my goodness, my kid has intense emotions only with me. My kid only yells with me. My kid only does this with me. Why? Why? Am I a bad parent? No. I mean, in some instances, maybe the parent's being a bad parent, but it's stepping back and being like, what does that mean? What are they communicating to me?
Mm-hmm.
In that moment, it could be they're communicating they feel safe enough to be vulnerable with me, but they might need help regulating.
Yeah.
It's taking that step back.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest differences in how I parent now versus how I parented before my divorce is just the ability to say, like, I am having these emotions myself and I need to regulate myself first, and I'll get to you in a minute. Like,
exactly.
I gotta figure out my stuff. I gotta sort myself. I will help you in a minute. Right now I'm gonna go to a different room. Or and just letting them also see that, like, I have emotions, because that was something was not a safe space to do before. And, you know, I've created the safe space to be able to have any emotions that I need to have. Obviously, if they're loud emotions, I try to take them outside and, like, tell my kids, hey, I'll be right back. I need a minute. Take them outside, go yell whatever it is I need to do, and then come back in and be like, remember that wasn't about you. That was about me. So now let's deal with whatever needs to be dealt with in here. But yeah, I mean, creating that place for them to feel safe and supported, and for them to be able to express those emotions is really important too, because they're going to have them whether they're expressing them or not. And if they know they can express them, and that you will give them that grace and space to be able to express them and then to address them as well, is really, really critical. But you do have to manage yourself first. Like that, you can't, that old saying, you can't pour from an empty cup, is so true when it comes to, you have to not only manage your emotional reaction in the moment, but if you need to manage emotions around whatever situation it is, like, deal with those first and then help your child through whatever it is. But I would also say, like, tell them that's what you're doing. I don't know if you feel like that's a good idea as a therapist, but I'm like, if I don't communicate to my kids why I had to go step into another room first, I feel like they're not getting the full picture of what just happened. And they're left thinking, mom's not talking to me right now. Yeah, right.
Yep. Communication is key.
Yeah.
Absolutely key.
Yeah. So what are some signs that a parent might need to focus on healing their own inner child? And how can they start that journey without a lot of guilt or shame?
Woo! Woo! That's a fun one. If you don't know that you might need to focus on your inner child, if you're on TikTok, your algorithm will probably show you. But
True.
Some signs for a parent specifically, I forgot where I heard this or read it, but if you find yourself getting mad at something your child's doing and getting upset at that, think about what happened when you did the same.
Mm.
How did others respond to you? There's a lot of times, like, I didn't notice with my goddaughters, for example. This was way before I had kids. Like, now those kiddos are in, like, high school. It's, woo, kind of crazy to think about. Like, I met them when they were in, like, preschool, kindergarten. But with my goddaughters, one of them had a habit of screeching, like, full ass screeching, and I'm like, "Oh my god, why does it bother me when she's playing and having fun and it's a happy screech? Why does that make me so angry? Why am I so quick to shut it down?" And I think back to when I was a kid, I was constantly around adults and I was constantly told I was being too much, or I need to act mature, or stop fooling around, stop fucking around. And I would get in trouble if I were to ever even think about screeching like that, let alone play. And then come to think of it, a lot of my play was very quiet and very solitary. I didn't really play with others that often because of that. I didn't want to be loud or get in trouble with that. And, you can focus on healing your inner child by tapping into that. So now when I'm having fun, I didn't even realize, like, one of my husband's favorite things about me is how excited I get about something. And that's something I used to shove down. But now, if I'm excited, I literally go, right? The same noise that would bother me before. But by giving myself permission to lean into that inner child of, okay, well, as a kid, I was banned from Play-Doh because we had the blue shag carpet of the 80s, and I would mash that Play-Doh into the carpet and it would get hard and cake on. You had to, like, cut it off with scissors, and that didn't always work. But now, as an adult, I have adult money. I can buy Play-Doh sets and mash them together if I want. And that is the beauty of it, of giving myself that permission, so to speak, to be a kid again and tap into that.
Yeah. Is there anything that, maybe a parent notices something like that they need to heal from, but they also need to address with their child because it truly is not something that they want them to do? Is there any way to navigate that where it's like, all right, I need to heal from this. At the same time, I need to help my child deal with this?
Right. So leaning into that child's experience and navigating it with them can be a healing experience for both of y'all.
Just kind of coming back to that communication, outward communication of what you're doing.
Yeah, it's that outward communication, and no guilt or shame. We all fuck up. I mean, think about it. If you didn't have that emotional maturity as a template to learn from, you're teaching yourself. It doesn't come naturally. No need to feel guilt or shame surrounding not knowing. Now, if you're negligent, if you knew better and you're doing completely against that, I mean, I could see where the guilt would come. But it's about knowing that you're trying better and you're trying to do better, be better.
Yeah. And, if it's something that's generational also, you're learning on the job, right? Like, you are learning on the job. You're also unlearning on the job, which is really hard to do at the same time. And that can bring up a lot. That can bring up a lot.
Like, in my case, I'm also working with clients. I'm the one who's supposed to have all the answers. Meanwhile, I have a baby and, like, all this stuff. So sometimes that guilt is not having those answers, and that's okay.
If you could give a piece of advice to someone who's navigating parenthood, new parenthood, while trying to address their own past trauma, what would it be?
Don't go at it alone. Being a work from home mom and technically a stay-at-home mom as well, like, I do work from home. I'm with my kiddo 24/7. It can be isolating. And, especially with my generation, I'm a millennial. I am in my early 30s. Not a lot of my friends have kids.
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes, but then some of my friends also have kids. So it's really hard not to feel lonely
Mm-hmm.
sometimes in that experience. And this happens a lot with new moms, and something I thought I'd be totally fine with, because I was like, I have colleagues. Like, I have so many moms in my network, it's not even funny. But it's really hard with the shift from being pregnant and all the focus is on you and how you're feeling to your kids out here now, you don't matter anymore. And I mean, I do in the sense that I'm keeping him alive and everything, but the focus is on him and
Yeah.
how adorable and cute he is. And going back to one of the first questions, that's also something that I struggled with, and I didn't think I'd have grief. I don't have a lot of baby pictures
Mm-hmm.
at all. And a lot of my family is not super involved in my life by choice and by consequence, really. So it's hard hearing like his family. My kiddo looks exactly like my husband when he was a baby. His mom has this fancy ass book that like photos are falling out because there's so many. Meanwhile, I'm lucky if I could find one photo from my
Mm-hmm.
first year of life, the one that I showed you where my son actually does look like me.
Yeah.
But it's there's that grief in that of like, oh, I'm not hearing people say, oh, he looks just like you. But now I'm hearing, oh yeah, no, he has your personality. That's you. That's you. And I look at him, I'm like, well, fuck. But that's the other aspect that is so mind blowing. It's like, oh, it's like tiny little mirrors. But it's like it's not even someone holding up a mirror constantly. It's like little flashes. You're just like,
Mm-hmm.
oh. And I think that's also the part of, healing that inner child when we recognize that, those small moments. Because, I mean, they are half of our DNA.
Yeah.
They are going to be affected somewhat of that. So, kind of trying to navigate that, don't go at it alone. As
Mm-hmm.
hard as it is, it takes a village. The trenches are real. But also, I know trying to avoid therapy while keeping a tiny human alive or not quite so tiny human, it's costly. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
So use great books that are backed by clinicians. I love this book. Honestly, anytime I had something come up with my parents or my family, I would open this to be like, okay, what can I learn? Like when I'm just like, oh, like seething with that rage, I just
Mm-hmm.
open this book. I'm like, okay, I feel better. Because even though my friends weren't available or whatever, I still felt singing. No way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll say on the other side of that, if you know someone who is a new parent, ask them how they're doing, and when they start talking about the baby, say, "Yeah, but I'm asking about you." Because
And
that's what I'm asking about.
if you go over, don't just be like, can I hold the baby? No. If you see dishes that need to be done, fucking do
Yes.
them. Like
For
help.
real. Yeah.
It's hard. It is so hard
Mm-hmm.
being a parent sometimes. And your friend might not be able to ask for what they need because they may not even know. Like I'm 5 months out of pregnancy and I still feel detached from my body
Yeah.
on a good day. So sometimes I forget to eat, and having that accountability buddy can help, but also preemptively being like, hey, I'm running by Starbucks. I'm on my way over to your house to help you wash or to put the laundry away for you. What do you want me to grab you?
Mm-hmm.
That, oh my God, I had so many family members do that. It helps so much.
Yeah.
So much.
Good. That's good. All right, well, it is time for the absolutely never before done, mythical, magical, seventh magic moment. So, Jessica, I'm going to ask you this for the seventh time. We were talking about this before. I don't remember what you've said before. So, if it's changed since you became a parent, if it's changed since last time, if it's changed since the first time, I'm not going to know until I go back and look all of them up, which I'm not going to do today. So if you could wave a magic wand and eliminate one more common opinion or misconception surrounding mental illness, mental health, or talking about mental health, what would it be?
So funny enough, I always know this question's gonna come when I'm meeting with you, and I sit with my husband. I'm like, what haven't I gone over? And I'm like, go back and forth. I'm like, shit, I don't know. So I literally think about it until this moment. I think I got a good one. So what I would eliminate is the thought that boundaries are punishments. And that asserting boundaries with family for our own health is going against the bloodline. It's going against, like, it's ethically and morally wrong to go against your family by enforcing boundaries.
I love that one. That's great. And I can guarantee you haven't said that one before. You haven't said that one before. So that's definitely a new one.
Okay.
Not that it matters if it was a new one or not.
Boundaries are not a punishment. And I think that's the hardest thing that I had to learn while pregnant.
Yeah.
I had a lot of people who were overstepping their boundaries. I had random ass people touching my belly. I mean, granted, I'm petty and chaotic, and I would just start petting their belly in return and be like, yeah, it's awkward, huh? Yeah, that's what we're doing. So not everyone can approach chaos so gracefully, or not so gracefully in my case sometimes. But with those boundaries, I always thought of it as a punishment of like, oh, if you do this, I'm going to do that. Like, it's not an if then cause effect situation. Boundaries are the limits I have for myself to continue having a healthy relationship with others, whether that be healthy for myself, healthy for the other person, or healthy for the situation and environment. So sometimes that is distancing. Sometimes that is calling someone out to their face. Sometimes it is not doing Christmas. I mean, shit, I don't remember the last time I did Christmas with my family. Actually, yes, I do. I take that back. I remember exactly when it was and why. But boundaries are for our own sanity. It's not punishment for other people. It's what we're willing to say no to in terms of it being against our values and our beliefs and where we stand. So it's not punishing others. And upholding a boundary with family is not punishment. It's accountability.
Yeah. Accountability and protecting your own peace. Most definitely.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much. I
want to see a montage of.
I know. We're going to have to, I'm telling you, we're going to have to get to like 10, and then I'm going to do 10 of them in one video, and that'll be the video upload for the week, for sure. I think that'd be great. I have thought about doing like a montage of a bunch of different magic moments and saying like, here's a bunch of them from this year or something, which would be that's probably too many for a video, because that would be 50. I do one of these a week, so that'd be 52 different ones. But yeah, like I've thought about doing that before. I need to just make it happen. Okay, well, I'll open it up to any remaining community questions. So if y'all have any questions for Jessica, feel free to pop them into the chat. And Jessica, I'll just open it up to you if there's anything we didn't talk about, anything cool you're working on, anything you've got going on. I will also post all of your links one more time. So I've got website, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'll post all those again. But I'll just give you the floor for a minute to share whatever you would like to share.
Yeah, I mean, this is the time where I would totally like Simba my kid up if he was here with me. But no, all I would self-promote is when I was on maternity leave, I created a workbook, so to speak, of different activities that clients, clinicians, parents can do between session. I created an activity for every single day I was gone on leave, including the weekends. So it's super easy to do short activities to kind of supplement what's already being done in session. Or if you're just bored and have no idea what to do during the upcoming winter break, just saying, this activity book has all sorts of different things for all ages, and it's neurodivergent friendly. That is up on my website. $30 for 90 days worth of activities. Quite the worth, if I must say myself. But yeah, that's all I can think of off the top of my head. My caseload is full, unfortunately. But if you're ever looking to consult or shoot the shit, or even if you're on the Discord for this amazing podcast stream, say hi. I'm in there. Tag me. Love to chat.
Absolutely. Okay, I found the workbook on your website. So I'm going to post a direct link for anyone who's interested. Here's a direct link to it on her website. I know I already posted her website, but if you want to go grab that 90-day workbook. Oh, there's like a scavenger hunt and music therapy, and oh, this is cool. Oh, I like that.
I have different themes. Like each week was a different theme, and I tried making it as easy, low prep, all ages as I could, because I do treat kids, teens, adults, all sorts of different things going on mental health wise. But I don't want to just leave them high and dry while I was gone for 3 months or however long it was going to be. And thankfully it was exactly 3 months. But it was really fun. All my clients said it was amazing and really, really helped them when I was gone.
That's awesome. And like really speaks to your just care about other people. Because you're like, I'm not going to be here. I still want to be helpful. And here's the way that I can do that. I think that's really fantastic. That's great. And there is a link to the Discord if anyone is interested. I just posted on both Twitch and YouTube, so feel free to click through to that. And Jessica's happy lil brains in there. Feel free to tag her, like she said. And yeah, she's in there, and we're always happy to have discussions and stuff. So feel free to pop anything you have on there. Well, Jessica, thank you so much. This has been lovely, and I can't believe it's been 7 times now. That's wild.
That's insane. I need to start collecting the magic wands like Thanos.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, you do. It's true. All right, folks, give me just a minute to disconnect with Jessica, and I will be right back. Stick around.
That's it for today's episode of Even Tacos Fall Apart. Huge thanks to Jessica for coming back again and sharing her experience so honestly. Parenting while healing is no joke. It forces you to confront parts of yourself that you didn't even realize needed attention. And sometimes it's not even the big, obvious things, it's the small moments. The way your child looks at you, the way they need you, the way their existence alone can bring up emotions you thought you had under control. Jessica talked about the grief that can come with parenting, the grief of what you didn't have growing up, the grief of expectations that don't play out the way you planned, and the grief of realizing that sometimes, even with all the knowledge and experience in the world, you're still figuring things out as you go. But she also reminded us that healing isn't about doing everything perfectly. It's about recognizing the patterns, making intentional choices, and giving yourself the grace to grow. So if you're out there raising kids while also working through your own past, just know you are not alone. You don't have to have it all figured out. You're allowed to set boundaries, you're allowed to take up space, and you're allowed to have days where the biggest accomplishment is just getting through it. If this episode resonated with you, take a second to subscribe, leave a review or a comment, and share it with someone who might need to hear it. These things are free, and they keep these conversations going and getting to more people, and honestly, it just means a lot to me. You can also join the Even Tacos Fall Apart community. We are on Discord, and we keep these conversations going in a space that's supportive, real, and judgment-free. There's links to everywhere you can connect on our website, tacosfallapart.com. Thanks for listening, and remember, even when things fall apart, you're still worthy of love, growth, and healing. See you next time.